Okay, guys, welcome back. We are now live. I see we have 12 viewers according to my stats there already, and we've got quite a few on Discord. And we have a wonderful surprise. Pilot Sasso is here with us. So anything I say wrong, he's going to correct, and everything I don't say, he's going to fill in. So, Sasso, welcome, and thank you for joining us as a real 737 pilot. This is going to be an absolutely amazing flight, I think.
Good morning. Welcome everyone in the stream, and thanks, Nick, always.
Mm. I hope we can get to the bottom of this because I mean if it's a Zibo mistake, it needs to be fixed. If it's not, then we need to educate the people. So either or, something's gonna happen, good or bad, and then we will address whatever happens. I just hope the conditions are still, in our favor for this tutorial there at Seattle. Hello, good morning, Kevin McCarthy. Right. Gents, as usual, I had to reconfigure my explain. So it's busy reloading and so on. It is going to take a wee while. While we are waiting, I want to bring your attention to the following. This thing that popped up on the screen now, this is my training checklist. This is what I use to train the Zibo pilots with. It is not an average checklist. This is not a memory item thing. This is a 32-page document that I created specifically to run through the flows and to get everything working properly. So I'm going to refer to this. If you want a copy, you can go to my private hangar. It's in my OneDrive, and then you can also follow with us, or you can use it for future reference. Okay, and we'll get into the nitty gritty of that very soon. In fact, let me just leave it on there because we need to do the reload. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to bring this to your attention because this is a test flight and we are testing the winter operations, and we are also using it as a tutorial. We are going to do the Zibo thing properly. All right, now you can hate me and you can try and badmouth me all you want. These things work, and I'm not going to apologize for that. There are many thousands of people that can testify to this. So, the first thing we're going to do after spawning at the gate is we're going to reload this aircraft and make sure that every single script works. So, we're going to go there to the top. There is a reload the current aircraft. Skip art and reload. I'm not going to use. I'm just showing that here because that's what's visible. The one above it says reload the current aircraft and art, and that is the option that I use. All right. This will ensure that we do not have a semi-working or semi-broken Zibo mod, and that all the scripts actually load the way it should. So that's the first thing. Right, there's no point in doing a test flight if that's not so. Second thing is I only have the relevant sceneries and stuff for this area installed, North America as such. All right, Europe, Africa, Asia, everything else is disabled. We're making the sim lean and mean today. We're only focusing on what we have. We have Orbex through Earth in here, and we're using the default Seattle. Right, I'm at the cargo ramp because it's the closest to the runway. I don't want to taxi for an hour before takeoff. We're going to use runway 16 left, and we're going to simply fly. I've scheduled in the flight plan flight level 200, and we're only going to Vancouver. I don't know if we're even going to get up that high, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll do a orbit or something if we have to, just to ensure we have the right altitudes there for us. Okay, so the reloading has happened. I'm just moving Linda's little widget. Good morning, Linda.
Hello, Cap. My name is Linda.
Good
I
morning,
am your
Captain.
first officer today.
Hello, Andrew, and hello, Mako. All right, Mako says he's got this thing printed. That's awesome. I did update it the other day, but I need to update it again. There is one or two things, so I just wanted to ask you. But we'll do that offline. It's not important. I just don't want to send this particular version out. This one has not been uploaded. It's changed but wrong. So we'll talk about that later. Okay. Good. So as you guys can see, we have absolute miserable weather. If we actually go and check the weather, let's quickly connect to explain. That is our weather. It is ghastly. 17 knots, gusting 27 two-statute miles visibility, and then we've got all these other fancy things with them. minus 3 degrees Celsius. We have snow and a whole bunch of other pieces of interesting weather items. So let's quickly just look outside. By the way, I'm not going to fly this online because it is a test flight, so it is what it is. We're just going to enjoy ourselves. Right. So let's get going. Better pushback, pre-plan.
Round to cockpit, plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you are ready.
Right, okay, gentlemen, because this is a test and educational flight, you guys must please feel free to ask questions or make comments in between. Okay, this is done for all of our benefits, not just some people. So if you feel like getting involved, yeah, get involved. I understand why this thing changes like this. Now it's gone too far. You can only do it one way. Right, something like that. Right, so we are fogging up nicely. By the way, this is normal until you get your window heaters on. This is what it looks like in real world, so there you go. so that goes on. We don't want any other thrust reductions and things, so let's stick to that and get Linda to set our trim.
Trim up.
Captain Hanson on the fasten seatbelt sign. We do ask that all passengers take your seat at this time and please fasten your seatbelt. Just as a reminder, we cannot leave the gate until all carrying items are properly put away, all overhead bins are closed, and all passengers are seated.
Right, okay. So I'm just looking at the charts and I haven't read through absolutely everything, but I just on face value do not see a specific de-icing bay. So what I'm going to do is I am simply going to push back, and as I'm standing there, we will just call the de-icing trucks. Right, so that is the plan.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
Okay, so let's get this thing on screen so long.
Departure cross check and all call, thank you.
Okay, so if you guys read through this document, you'll see here, this is page 16, it says the engine start procedure. There's a whole section right there that talks about the de-ice operations, the anti-ice operations. All right, so we're going to go through and go find it. All right, so this is the first bit of information. Hello, Christer, welcome. The first bit of useful information, and I do make reference that this comes from the FCOM, so this is not a Nico special or a thumb sucked by Nico story. If you don't want to believe me, then I suppose you need to go speak to Boeing about their procedures, so not my problem. Okay, so we have certain conditions. The first option is above 10 degrees, then anti-ice doesn't come on. Between 1 degree and 10 degrees with visible reported moisture of any kind, engine anti-ice and wing anti-ice needs to come on. Now we are currently at 4 degrees. Right, so you can see 4 degrees. So that is not for us either. All right. If that condition was true, then you have to also comply with the conditions set out by these two paragraphs over there. Now we are at 0 and below, and the pushback must just wait for us. Okay, so at 0 and below, there are a couple of things that happen. Your wing anti-ice and engine anti-ice must go on while you are operating on the ground. All right, that's after engine start. But there's an additional condition, and the condition revolves around whether you use your type 2 or type 4 anti-ice fluid. If you do, wing anti-ice must not come on. So I'm going to not bore you and read through all of this. What you need to understand is, as you're taxiing to the bay for your de-icing, wing wing anti-ice and engine anti-ice on. Once you get there, it gets switched off. Okay. You don't taxi with your flaps extended. You always taxi with your flaps up, otherwise the icing can form in between the openings there. All right, you don't want that. That's life-threatening. All right, so again, go read through these conditions. It's very important. All right, then I've got two options for the Zibo users. The one is the de-icing conditions for simmers, which is this one. You can see it's very basic. You basically pull out, like I said earlier, you go just push back before you start your engines. You do the de-icing trucks. It runs for 3 minutes approximately, and it will give you 45-minute hot on the ground. All right. If you go beyond 45 minutes before takeoff, you have to redo them. Okay, otherwise that mathematical equation running in the background is going to run out, and you're going to lose the protection built into the Zibo. Again, you've got similar conditions now after you've sprayed that you need to take into consideration. For the advanced simmers, I actually put the actual FCOM. This is from FCOM 2014, I think was the last one that I put in. Yeah, I haven't checked the latest one. If there's a difference, I'll have to update it. But this comes from that era. So this is exactly how it works. This was amended by Boeing after Norwegian Air had their near disaster with the anti-ice procedures that was in the previous FCOMs. So they adapted and they fixed a couple of things there. And there are certain things, obviously, as you can see, there's way more body in this one to do it correctly. All right, so you should be able to get away with this one. Not every flight simmer wants to simulate to this level. You know, it's up to you. I think what I'll do for today is I'm going to do this one. You know, just follow the big instruction. And so sitting there eagerly waiting for me to get going now, because you know, it's taking a while. We'll get there, Sasso. We'll get there just now.
No problem. I was
Alright.
reading actually, and
Okay, cool.
looks fine.
Cool. All right. There was one other thing that popped into my mind, which just flashed through the screen. Oh yes. Before taxi. It's down here. It's down here. De-icing. Okay, runway entry procedure for 3 degrees and below. This is a supplemental thing. All right, perform a static engine run up. Okay, we had guys test this for us last year, and some of them actually crashed because they didn't do this. I'm not sure to what extent this is modeled in today's Zibo, but I'm still gonna do this. You have to do that run up to make sure you get all the muck out of those engines. All right, so just something to bear in mind. It doesn't stop there. Just before you take off, there's one more little thing we need to look at. So
Actually, yeah, I have a question, Nico, about
yes.
this. That one is correct, the static run up. But if you go below the advanced procedure, the option 2 at the de-ice bay, and then you have there perform a static engine run up. That basically is before the de-ice.
That is before the de-ice, yes.
I mean, my personal thing is I won't do a run up before doing the de-ice.
Okay.
Just because if there is ice near the engine or near the wing, actually, and that's why I'm going to do the de-ice, then I don't want to do a static run up at 70% with the possibility of the engine to eat the ice, to ingest ice. I agree with you to do the static engine run up after the de-ice.
Okay. Yeah, this, like I said, this was done 2014. Obviously, we're talking things changed, so we can always remove that one. We'll leave that one out then for now on your advice. Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
Cool. Thank you for that. That's why you're here. So, you have to teach us correctly. Why did I do that? That's what I wanted. Okay. Okay. So, what we're gonna do is we are now going to ask Linda before start procedure.
Before start procedure.
Starting pushback, and you may start engines.
Before start procedure completed.
Operation complete. Set. Parking brake.
Right, okay, so
Disconnecting
what
tow.
we are told
Standby.
is the APU should be off unless required. We do require it, so that's a no-brainer. We're going to leave it on. All right, flaps must be up. Our flaps is definitely up. All right, thrust leave. What on earth? Come on, click the wrong button. All right, our thrust levers are definitely in idle, and our stabilizer trim is at 5, close to as possible. All right, then engine bleed air switches both. They go to
Tow is
off.
disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal will be on the left. We'll see you next time.
APU
Have a
bleed
safe
air
flight.
switch off. Okay, then we're going to find this de-icing. Why am I not seeing it there? Start de-icing.
We have started the de-icing procedure.
So the bleeds are turned off so the de-icing stuff doesn't get blown into the cabin.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Yes.
Correct. If I can add something, Nico, while
Yes.
we look at this, there is very important. In this case, you did the let's say the general one, because the possibility basically are two. One is you are gonna have the de-ice treatment with the engine running, and the other one is de-ice before starting the engine. Now, in this case, as you are at the moment, you are doing the de-ice prior to engine start. So technically, because the engine is not doing anything, you can either leave the engine bleed on, but remember to switch the APU bleed off, because the
Yes.
APU is the only one working at the moment.
Correct.
But the general rule is to be the safest course of action is switch all the bleed off, just in case.
Yes. Makes perfect sense.
And again, another thing while we wait, remember, is not really connected with the de-ice procedure, but is very connected with the winter ops. These aircraft, it depends if you have an EAN aircraft or not EAN aircraft, fail passive or fail operational. But how about if I have a severe damage and I have to come back here immediately? If I lose one engine in an aircraft without the EAN function, so a fail passive autoland system, then I will not be able with only one autopilot to complete the autoland. That means that I will have to nominate a takeoff alternate or a departure alternate, which means a suitable airport within 1 hour flying distance with one engine operative, where there are Cat 1 conditions. That's very important. Otherwise, if you have an engine failure and you lose the Cat 3 operation, then you don't know where to go because you can't go in these airports because
Wow.
of the minima. So it's very important. Cat 3 operations in departure means nominate, decide with the captain, a takeoff alternate.
De-icing
Okay.
Not
procedure
only the landing
completed.
alternate, but also a takeoff alternate where there are Cat 1 condition or better.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you for that, Sasso. I didn't go that far now, so I think
No problem.
this whole Northern America at this point in time looks horrible. We're gonna have to fly down south to find an airport. We'll have to worry about that when it happens. Sorry, man. I didn't think that far. Okay. Anyway, we have to wait 1 minute. Anyway, for the bleed air. So I know it's not running, and we went through the logical common sense side of things already. I'm just gonna give it a 1 minute breather anyway. All right, and then after a minute, we should be fine. All right.
I have a question.
Yes.
If a plane's been standing a few hours, can the rudder and the elevators move away from the neutral position? And if so, can they get really iced up in that position? And if that's the case, is there any danger in starting the hydraulics and having them move before de-icing?
Start number 2 engine.
Can I go, Nico?
Yeah. Yes, please, Sasa.
That's exactly why at the beginning, when you do the visual inspection around the aircraft at the beginning, you look exactly for this possibility. To be honest, is not really regarding the rudder, because when you turn the electrics hydraulic system off, because in my company we turn only the electrics off, we don't turn the engine, because the engine are off, so there is no point to switch the engine hydraulics off. But when the electrical are off, usually the rudder is stuck already, it doesn't move. He's stuck in a neutral position and stay there. Now, there is the possibility of ice accumulation, but it's not really like a crazy amount, as far as I know, as far
Start
as
number 1 engine.
as I receive as a teaching at the
Starting
moment.
number 1
I
engine.
never had a situation like the rudder is completely stuck or things like that. For sure, what you want to do is to do the visual inspection and then clear the rudder when you do the de-ice treatment, because the de-ice is not only on the rudder, but the de-ice can also occur on the rudder and the elevator. It's basically the captain that decides with the handling agent where we want the aircraft to be de-iced in terms of position.
25 and 2.
The main thing there is the stub trim. The stub trim needs to be set in a particular position, 5 degrees nose up, before receiving the treatment. Okay, that is because of if you look at the elevator, the stub trim is in a neutral position at 5,
Starter cut
not
out.
at 4. So that's something to bear in mind. Usually we leave the stub trim at 5, so it's in a neutral position and there is no space between the stub trim and the elevator in general.
I also just realized I forgot to mention something. If we look at the flight simmer version of things, where's that thing? That Adobe there. All right, this is going to be more appropriate for the position that I am in now, okay, because this is before engine start. This one actually is at the de-ice bay, so the engines would have been running already. So I just want to point out there are some common sense things, guys. Don't go make a mountain out of a mole's heap again, you know, split hairs. There's some common sense things, you know, that we didn't do here, like physically start the engines before performing this thing. But I think Sasso and I also, especially Sasso, added a lot of useful information. So just be careful when you use the checklist that you're in the correct position, or that you understand, if you're not in the correct position, why we do what we do, without going and splitting hairs now, please. All right, so okay, we've gone through all the timing issues. We beyond a minute the engines are running, our engine bleeds are on again. All right, so stabilizer trim is set for takeoff. I mean, that is how it is supposed to be for this flight, so we're not going to mess with that at all. What we are going to do is now just get our engines on the bus and start setting up everything as normal. All right, so now we get to this thing. We're going to taxi with flaps up. We're not going to use it right now. Okay. And then the wing anti-ice must be off. All right. Now, the way I understand it, even though I didn't write it here, engine anti-ice should go on. Hey, Sasa?
Correct. Engine anti-ice on, but not the wing, because you have
Exactly.
been treated.
Exactly. I think just for clarity's sake, I'll go and put a little comment in there, unless I'm not seeing it right now. Engine bleeded.
There was something regarding type 2 and type 4 I read
Yeah,
before.
there.
It was clear to me that the wing remain off because you have
Correct.
been treated.
That's true, but you know, people, Simmers, that because I didn't specify in that same block, that same paragraph, engine anti-ice must now be switched on. You see there, I never put it in there.
Okay.
I'll just put
Okay,
it.
I know what you mean.
I'll put it in there just to remind them, because you know, coming from the top here, there it says engine anti-ice on, but it's part of a different you know, page. So I'm just going to basically copy that line, and I'm going to drop it in here somewhere so the guys don't forget to actually switch the engine anti-ice on. Okay, so let's get going.
Taxi lights on.
And another thing, the before takeoff checklist to the line, which is basically the one you do at the moment as soon as you start the taxi, which is in the control column. The first item there is config check, which means bring the thrust more or less at 70% to check that everything is configured for takeoff. Of course, in this situation, you don't do it because the flaps are up. So of course you will hear the takeoff or warning sound.
Yeah. Okay, so I've just scrolled down a little bit now. We've obviously gone through all of this, right? So the engine, the runway entry procedure, and then we've got this additional supplement. I mean, it's going to basically work pretty much the same as we always have, to a certain point. So we're going to switch on all the lights, do all these lights. All right, landing lights, runway turn-off lights, position lights, weather radar can come on. Before takeoff procedure. Let Linda do her
Before
magic.
takeoff procedure. Before takeoff procedure completed.
Alright, and then we're going to do this 30-second run up.
Stabilized.
Actually, we don't have anything configured there, so we might as well put that there. Alright, okay, so now we can set takeoff flaps and take off as usual.
Flaps 5 set.
Approaching 16 left. On runway 16 left.
Stabilized. Takeoff thrust set.
Okay, now shortly after takeoff the user
80 knots.
crashed out,
Throttle
so
hold.
let's see what happens with us here now.
V1. Rotate. Positive rate.
Gear up. Wow, this wind is playing with me. Wow. Alright, there we go. Come on, eh?
Runway turn off, lights off.
Good luck, bad luck, Daniel? I don't know. I just flick the switches and they seem to be semi working together. I don't know. Just my good luck today, I suppose.
Flaps 1 set. Flaps up set.
Sasso?
Yes.
So, according to the FCOM and my checklist here, we need to switch the wing anti-ice when required at 30-second intervals. How soon after takeoff in conditions like this would you consider that, if even? Because I mean, we're climbing out of the clouds now. It doesn't even look as if we're going to need it again.
That's the problem of the simulator. I look out the wing. I look at the wing. There is ice. I turn the wing anti-ice on. That's all I can say. Yeah, there are suggestions in terms of time, but I mean, we are talking about wing anti-ice. What we want is to have the wing clear. So
Yes.
I look outside. I see there is ice accumulation or icing building up. wing anti-ice on. 30 seconds, 1 minute. It really depends how much snow you have there.
Of course.
Sorry, not snow, but ice.
Ice, understand. Well, I've switched it on for the first 30 seconds because we've just broken through the cloud just to make sure we
Yeah,
get
that's fine.
rid of everything that was possibly there. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we can switch the engine anti-ice off now as well. We've just climbed out of it.
Exactly. Icing conditions do not exist anymore.
Well, technically we're done with the problem. I mean, I don't know why the user crashed out. There's not enough evidence to suggest what it could be. I checked the flap speeds. He seemed he was in flaps. He says he did the anti-ice fluid. I don't know. Unless it, you know what else it could be? The only thing I can think of is he's using default explain weather, and that weather was just against him. And it was like he got some wind shear or something. Not sure at all.
Now becoming a bit off topic, but Nico, the question is how to have the winter condition in X-Plane.
Same seasons.
There we go. You always know the answer. Why?
Yes. Why? Why do I know the answers? Sasso, I'm going to use the words my wife used. This is the other woman.
Oh, okay. Oops.
The simulator is the other woman. I have to know things.
Approaching transition.
Know how to handle the woman.
Transition altitude. Thousand to level off.
Yeah, this is not a long flight. I am going to have to start thinking about all the descent stories just now. Yeah, top of descent 59. Right, okay. Let's get back to business.
And it worked nice with orthos, correct?
No, no. Some season is only for without orthos. If you put snow on the orthos, you're not going to see the orthos anyway. You understand? So
True.
what I do is when I have winter ops in this area I can't because this is Orbix through Earth, but in the normal ortho area I just switch the orthos off, then I run Sam seasons, make it nice and white, and then just enjoy it. I mean, you won't be able to see, the
But you can
orthos.
leave the airport.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's next? What's next? Weather. We are looking at 2979. 79. Decision 13. 13. Right. Ten 9.79. Forgot. Right. Right, and then what we are going to do is we're going to observe the same anti-ice procedures during the descent. When we get into the clouds, or actually a minute or so before we get into the clouds, we'll have the engine anti-ice on already.
I have another quick question.
Shout.
I've just been thinking about
Approaching
the
transition.
de-icing fluid and not having the wing anti-ice on. I'm assuming that this de-icing fluid is viscous in some sense, and to put heat into the wings would make it run off quicker. Is that the case?
The reason for not using the wing anti-ice, you mean?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Plus, it will run up quickly. It will run out. So the old overtimes, which is the kind of time of protection that you have, and remember that time protection, the old overtime, it depends on the wind situation, it depends on the outside temperature, it depends on the type of fluid. Actually, there is a table that the captain and the handling agent must consult, must check before treat the aircraft, because then everything depends on that table. And the possibility to say, okay, we are at the holding point, we are still protected with the eyes we have done, because it's been 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and the old overtime is 45. Everything remain on the paperwork
Approaching
after
transition.
the flight. And of course, any pilot should not commence takeoff if he or she is not 100% sure that the aircraft is still protected with the de-ice fluid. All
Brilliant,
this
thank you.
kind of information, type fluid, the mixture of fluids, and the old overtimes, everything goes into the tech log for future reference. So everything is gonna stay on the book of the aircraft.
And will that information also be sent to Boeing?
No, not to Boeing. They go, they remain in the tech log for the company. Technically, I guess they go to Boeing if there is an accident or incident, of course.
Transition level.
That's why I asked, because Nico told in the beginning this procedure is because of an accident, of nearly accident in Norway.
Yeah, but that's because there is an accident or incident, and then there is an investigation. And the first thing that you will have is the company, one of the referent from the company involved, one of the authority, and for sure one of the authority of the airport where, the country. So if it happens in Norway, probably it's going to be one of the Norway aviation safety agents. And of course the manufacturer, because all it comes in trying to find the reason for that. And if that involved maybe particular procedure or particular problem with the aircraft, then the manufacturer, in this case Boeing, has to know immediately.
Yeah, thank you.
Pleasure.
I would like to have a cup of coffee right now.
This woman.
You too?
Nico,
Yes, sir.
what's the temperature of the airport where we are gonna land?
According to this, -1. According to the
Uh-huh.
meter.
Okay, -1 is not that bad. But remember that especially when you are not under radar control, you have to do the so-called cold temperature correction for the altitude. If the temperature at the airport is 0 degrees or less,
Uh-huh.
then you have to correct the altitude. Because remember that all the altimeters, even if it's digital, it works on the principle that the altitude is calculated on a ISA condition. So when the temperature is very cold, so 0 degrees Celsius or less, then the minima and the altitude at the FAF for any step altitude during the approach has to be corrected for the temperature. I remember once landing in Bergamo with -5, and we had to add something like 200 feet above the minima because of the temperature correction.
Okay, now where do we find those calculations?
There is a table. Let me have a look. There we go. It's as soon as you write cold temperature correction, you will get the table. And basically there is aerodrome temperature on the left, height above the elevation, and you will have the correction to apply. That's all it is. With -1, it's not a huge difference. But if you start to think -5, -10, then you want to take a look at that.
Okay, I gotcha. So this one, if I read it correctly, it says I need to add 20 feet. I'm
Give me
not sure
1
if I read it
second.
correctly. See, this is now opening a new can of worms, and I know there are two guys who are already going, wah. Oh my hat.
So if the barometer's unreliable, does that mean the landing altitude on the PFD is also unreliable?
That's why you correct. You correct the minima because the through altitude is wrong. If you fly in a cold situation, the true altitude is below the lower than the indicated altitude. Slightly, but it's lower. That's why always remember from high to low, look out below. Because going from a high temperature or high pressure situation to a low temperature or low pressure situation, if you do a
1000 to
mistake
level
with the
off.
QNH or you don't correct for the temperature, look out below because your true altitude is going to be lower than indicated. How about, let's think about this.
Wait, before you
How
go on,
about,
wait. Hold that
yeah,
thought, hold that thought. I just want to show you guys something. If you look in STKP, remember we go on about density altitude. Look what the density altitude at this airport is. It's minus 1,613 feet. See there? Okay, continue, Sasa.
yeah, so basically, look out below because the true altitude is going to be lower than indicated. Think about if Nico forget to change the QNH. Now, I don't remember what the QNH was at the departure airport. I don't know if it was higher or lower, actually. But let's imagine that by mistake, instead of putting the correct QNH, like 2979, as I can see, he put 2983. Do it now, Nico, that you are with autopilot. If you want to put, at the moment you have 3000 exactly. If you set 2985, for example, then look what the indicated altitude will be.
That goes higher.
There we go. But you are still at 3000, so you are lower than indicated. So from high to low, look out below because you are going to have a lower the true altitude is going to be lower than indicated.
Yeah. You see, these are things that simmers don't think about. They don't really care, you know, because it doesn't influence them. But in the real world, man, I can just imagine how important this is. Wow.
Oh, man. Think about Bergamo near the Alps.
Of course. Of course.
Yeah. But that's why we fly on standard. Because everybody will have the 1013. So everybody is going to be separated because the reference is going to be the same. You know what I mean?
Of course.
But in terms of approach, you have to be careful. Because if it's really cold, then you may have 200 or 300 or 400 feet of difference between the indicated altitude and the true altitude, or even more. It depends on the deviation.
Well, so to correct for the cold temperature, then is that a correction in the QNH that you make so that all the altitudes are adjusted appropriately? Is that how
not
it would
on the
do it?
QNH, not on the QNH. Is on the temperature. So there are
Yeah, sure.
table where it says, for example, aerodrome temperature, let's say -10, and then you interpolate with height above the elevation of the altimeter setting source. Well, this is in meter, but I want to do it in feet, of course. So let's imagine, what's the platform, Nico, for this approach?
Sorry, I wasn't concentrating on you just now. What platform you're looking for? You meaning
Flaps 1 set.
The platform for the, the ILS or the platform altitude?
tell you now. 3,000.
3,000. What's the airport elevation?
13. 13.
1.3. So we can call it 3,000 because, I mean, 13 is nothing.
Nothing.
So we have height above the ground 3,000, and let's call it temperature at the aerodrome -10, just to have a significant value. So if we interpolate in the table, -10 and 3,000 give me 290 feet of correction. So I will need to add to the minima and to the platform altitude 290
Takeoff
to
was
make
great.
it safe.
We'll see your
So the
landing.
platform will become 3,290 indicated, and the minima is gonna be whatever the minima is plus 290.
Wow.
That's how bad it is.
Wow. Okay.
That's why we have now radio altimeters. So it's, it's all comes to one view, to the safe flight. But if you lose the radio altimeters, man, you wanna have the right altitude set there.
I'm gonna go for the radio just for the hell of it. Okay,
That's
to
what
radio 50.
we always do with radio. But yeah, if you're really going to -10, then yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, like I say, I've said it before. These are things simmers don't think about.
I just
Don't
saw
even
the
know
link.
that.
I just saw the link posted by Krister.
No, I didn't.
And there is the table.
Mm.
There is a table in that page.
Yeah.
The one at the top is in meters, the one at the bottom is in feet, and I exactly use that one. -10, interpolate with 3,000, you're gonna get 290.
I see. I see now how you read it. Yes, I see it.
It's the reason I mentioned that you could take into account the change in height by... So let me make this clear. If you're 290 feet out, you
Flaps
could
5
change the QNH by 10 hectopascals, or the equivalent in inches, to correct for the height.
Correct, but the problem, Paul, is that this altimeter correction is done only at the transition, MSA at or below MSA value, not above the MSA. So if I have a flat terrain, but I have an aircraft flying already on the QNH at 6,000 feet, I don't want to do a big mess with the QNH. I want to have all the pilots set on the standard QNH, that on the local QNH, let's call it 1020, or in this case 2979.
Yeah.
But then if one aircraft is doing a procedural flight and is not in under radar contact, then they can do this correction by themselves, because we are talking about the platform altitude. Now, if for a change of 290 feet you are gonna maybe collide to someone else, then there is a problem, because it should not be there. You know what I mean? It's not a huge difference.
Yeah. Interesting.
This is actually not a bad little test flight, you know that? Just Seattle to here.
Definitely.
Localizer capture. Glide slope capture. Flaps 15 set. Flaps 30 set.
There's the runway. Guys, follow that link. The whole document is written there already. If I can simplify it, I'll try and simplify it, but everything is there. I think if we oversimplify it, we're going to miss some of the values. So unfortunately, it looks rather more like even I need to go and really study these things. Then we can see what we can do. I mean, that table that's in that link that I just posted actually tells you everything. I mean, the issue was just we needed to learn how to read it, you know. And if you take the top row as the difference in altitude, then it's easy enough to match it on the left hand side with the temperature. Bring your fingers together and you'll see 3000 and minus 10 gives 290. So that whole table is actually, it needs to come into my training checklist, to be quite honest, with a little explanation of how to use it. Yeah, I think that's going to be something we need to do.
1,000 feet stabilized, Mr. Perch, altitude set.
Taxi lights on.
So the other thing I need to talk to you about is the transition altitude and transition flight level. You and Gary had a discussion the other night, and it confused me a little bit. When I tried to incorporate it into the training checklist, I picked up discrepancies. So I found a formula in an actual Boeing pilot forum, and Christer tested it and he said it's incorrect, completely wrong. So if you don't mind, we need that information as well.
Okay.
Yes, Christer, exactly what I'm saying. We need to simplify it for the simmers, because the simmers just don't have the energy or the know-how to really do this. They're not, you know, real pilots. They just want to sim properly. We need to make it easy for them. I forgot my wing and the ice on. Sorry.
Minimums. 100. 50. Minimum. 40. 30. 20. 10.
Speed brake up. Reverse unlocked. Auto brake in use.
Christer, I know you said so. I just want to talk to Sasso about it, because I also need to clarify it in my own mind. I mean, if I need to teach things, I need to understand it. I can't just suck stories, you know.
60 knots.
Welcome to Vancouver, ladies and gentlemen. What a flight. What a flight.
Great landing. You are professional.
I don't like this effect of the snow on the runway, I must be honest. It just doesn't work with my eyes. After landing procedure.
After landing procedure.
Thank you, Mako. Yes, Krister, we've seen it so many times, especially in the Zibo project. You know, you get a lot of clever people who want to
After
impose their
landing
stories
procedure
on you, but
completed.
if you don't test what they're saying, you know, you're not sure if it's true or not. And that's why Zibo is very strict. Nothing gets put in here that cannot be proven in real world. If it's not provable, theories don't help, don't work. So 174 foot per minute landing for those of you who keep track of that score, for what it's worth.
Flaps upset.
I really, really don't like this effect. Everything looks so nice, but that's not nice. Anyway, let's go find ourselves a parking spot. Thank you, Sasso. You read my mind.
Problem.
Yeah, you read my mind.
As easiest as possible. But
Yeah.
remember that sometimes the transition level is gonna, well, always the transition level, you will receive the transition level by ATC. So it's
Yes.
nothing that you have to do in your mind, because the transition level depends as well on some particular condition in terms of ground, in terms of busy TMA and stuff like this. Okay, sometimes there are particular airports that they are minor airports close to big or very big airports. In that case, the transition level, even if there is 1 or 2 hectopascal of difference in terms of QNH, they will adapt the transition level of the busier airports. Okay,
Mm-mm.
think about small airfield like I don't know, Luton with Heathrow, for example. They're going to use the same transition level.
Yeah, I understand. No, no, it makes perfect sense. The only reason I want this is because this is a golden nugget, and I don't want to lose it. You know, somebody 10 years from now is going to read my manual and it's going to say, "Oh, man, wow, look what I just found." You know, just like we
Yeah,
felt
yeah.
today finding it. You know, oh, wonderful. By the way, now I'm doing something completely wrong. On the ground, that thing needs to be on. And also, technically correct, this thing needs to be at 5. So, guys, don't forget that. I'm sorry I only mention it now, but there you go. It's done now. This effect, my eyes hate this effect. I hope I can switch it off. Shutdown procedure.
Shutdown procedure.
We made it. Daniel, I hope you enjoyed it. I actually feel good having done this stream. Just remember, guys, there are some certain common sense things, like I said earlier, you know, use the common sense thing. Just think about it, use the checklist, but adapt to the situation. I mean, you've got to be able to think on your feet. That's what makes us human, and God didn't give us, you know, a brain, you know, not to use it. We've got to think about things. We've got to adapt when it's necessary, and then use the guide. If you guys don't have a copy of my training checklist, please get it. Even if you use it
Shutdown
a few
procedure
times,
completed.
you'll remember for the next time. You know, go get it, use it, get used to it, all these things. Right, so that's the end of this story. Sasso, thank you so very much for all your wonderful input and sharing it with us. I'm so glad you made it.
It's a pleasure, Nico, as always.
Great stuff. And to everybody else here on Discord and watching on YouTube, thank you so much, guys, for the interest. If we can do more educational videos, which we are planning, we'll let you know, and then you just join us again. And get your questions ready as well. Feel free to ask, and if we don't know, we'll find out. So that's the normal standard operating procedure of this company. That's how it is. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna knock off and go rest a little bit. I see it's almost 1 p.m., so that means in 4 hours I'm starting my world tour, the next leg of the world tour again. It's another long flight, so you guys make sure you have snacks and cool drink. Come and go as you please. If you would like to join us even for 5 minutes, just come say hi. We'll see you then. Bye bye for now.